Welcome, this is the Drupal usability meeting for February 16th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating, and also present are Simo Helston, Aaron McHale, Ralph Kohler, and Thomas Howell. We've been discussing, before we started recording, we've been discussing what issues to look at, and we've chosen one of these issues that needs review and is tagged for a usability review. So for the sake of the recording, this is issue 338-7665. Warn user when entity delete will cause menu item reparenting. So before I go any further, I have prepared a standard install current Drupal. I'm giving you the link in the Zoom chat. As usual, you can log in as admin, and we can use this to walk through the steps to reduce. Install Drupal core. I've done that with the Umami demo profile. Create some entities. I guess we already have that from the Umami demo profile. 3, build out a simple main menu tree. And it suggests a total of 7 items, 3 of which are nested. And then delete the parent item, either the node or the menu item. So let's see what we have in the main menu in Umami. And feel free to interrupt me at any time. Main navigation. We have just 3. So let's add a couple of child pages under articles.
It's also possible to test with minimal set, so just moving recipes hierarchical under articles. So that's kind of the minimum setup to show the issue.
So let me do it this way. Test 1 link node 16. Will that work? Do I need to start with a slash? Yes, I need to start with a slash. Another child. Close enough?
Yeah.
And then delete either the menu item or the node it refers to. I guess I'll just delete the menu item.
Maybe first disable it. So you don't need. So we can delete it later, but first disable it.
Okay. And
this now to the front page, home page of the site, so we can see the result.
Oh, okay. So where is my main menu displayed? Up here?
So disabling it also does not show the children.
Okay, and maybe let's go back and see what it looked like before then. Articles. Well, the children weren't shown to begin with. Let's articles show as expanded. And I guess the Umami theme doesn't really support The main menu having children. Maybe we can change that initial visibility of still not. That must be something at the theme level.
We can now still do that, deleting the articles page from the menu.
Hang on, I just want to try one more. Page reload. Yeah, there's nothing I can do to get it to show up. Okay, but anyway. So now I'm going to first disable and then delete this menu item. Whoops. Somehow I reordered things. How did that happen? And there seems to be a pretty serious problem here that I can't, that delete is disabled. What if I go to edit? Do I have an option to delete here?
Hey, Benji.
Yes.
I don't know if I would characterize that as a serious problem. It would seem to me to be a design choice that you can't delete something while it still has children. That would be an expected behavior on my part. Like at least from a information management perspective, you should have to move the links before you can delete its parent.
What I just did on the same site, I just it's the articles page. It's a view, so you need to remove it from the menu item. You need to remove it from editing the view, and I just did that. So now we can see that the menu items moved to the one level up, so to the same level where the parent was. And now you can see from the home page that when I disabled the view menu link, I disabled the menu link from the view for the articles page. Now the children end up at the top level.
All right. Well, that was a little mysterious since you were doing that behind the scenes. Let's go back and try again. So we again have a hierarchical menu. We should see home test one and recipes on the front end. Home test one and recipes. We still don't see the child menu items. Can I now delete? Okay, now I can delete the test one. And this action cannot be undone. So I get this confirmation form. And now test two has gone up to the top level instead of test one. Okay, so for a while, I thought the issue might be outdated. If, as Thomas had suggested, that behavior, that the delete link was disabled, if that behavior was disabled on purpose, then it might mean that the issue is outdated. But that's more related to whether the menu link comes from a view or from a node or from an explicitly added menu item. Okay, so I think we've gone through the steps to reproduce. All of a sudden, the main navigation has new top level menu items. This is even more of a surprise if menu item was disabled or the related entity was unpublished. Because in that case, you might have forgotten that it has menu children. And in this example, there's not just one child item that gets promoted to the top level of the menu tree, but several, which, the more items there are, the more of a problem is that they end up at the top level. So I think I understand the problem it's describing. Anyone need clarification at this point?
There might be one more thing. That's related to the menu links on a view. So maybe go back to the site and go to editing the views.
Okay. Structure views.
And it's that featured articles, the fourth from the top. And then go to menu, page settings, menu, and add like normal menu entry. Leave that as is, apply and save. And then go and see that either the front page or the menu. Now we can see that the articles is restored to that place in the menu it used to be, and its child menu items are back as children that were just until recently test 2 was shown at the top level. So it also goes re-adding or re-adding views menu link. It kind of restores the hierarchy. So that's also unexpected.
Okay.
So disabling, but that's actually a views related issue. So it should be separate, I think, from this. I think this is display.
Really? You think it's a views related issue? I would think it's that this child menu item still has its parent saved, even though the parent is disabled or removed.
Yeah, but I think maybe the views, like if you remove the views link from the views, maybe it should delete the menu item, because and then re-enabling it, recreating the menu item. Well, I don't know if that's the best, but somehow it's either restoring the same item that was removed or creating a new one. And we know that it's not creating a new one. I don't know if changing the name or the menu link would change it, or if it's somehow, if the parent, yeah, that's a technical thing.
Yeah. Certainly it is, again, surprising that things that were at the top level of the menu are now nested, and that's a surprise. So it works in both directions. So I see several hands raised. Ralph?
Just one note and a suggestion, not directly related, but I think there should be a follow-up issue created, labeling if a menu link is based on basically a view, because that was not directly apparent, just based on the visual presentation on that menu. And also the behavior you experienced, Benji, with the delete. And it was also not clear that it was disabled. And that way, I think it would make sense to create a follow-up for that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is surprising to have something show up on this list, and there's first of all some styling here that's bad,
Yeah.
and then there's no explanation for why delete is disabled.
Yep.
So yeah, that's certainly a valid follow-up issue. Thomas?
I definitely agree, though. In writing the follow-up issue, I'm curious if the issue is specific to just views or if there are other things as well. And I wish I could figure out a quick way other than looking directly at the database to see where the information is stored. And I understand it's technical, but I suspect that the information is being kept with the child. Like each article is keeping track of what it's linked to. Like I wanted, I'm curious what's actually happening and how it's making these decisions, because um, I recall when I was making more extensive sites, lots of weird idiosyncratic behaviors. And I don't know that this issue, it feels like this issue is touching on one symptom rather than the broader problem that exists in how the assumptions that are being made to generate the menu items. And so I don't know if we can sign off on this issue easily and say, hey, just make this thing or it's good or it's bad. If there's if there's a more core or fundamental cause. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm pretty sure that the parent, and not just the parent, but also the grandparent and great-grandparent are stored with each menu item, whether it's a node or a view. I think ancestry, 9 levels of ancestry stored with each menu link. And second of all, I think that if the current issue improves things, then we could recommend implementing it, even if it doesn't fix everything, even if there are deeper confusions at work. But go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks. Sorry, 1 second. I was literally about to take a drink of water as you, as you say, go ahead. I think so. There's probably other situations you could get, other ways you could get this situation. One of them is if you have a module that's defined some menu links and then the module removes those links. That's the equivalent of just removing them. Is what you did with views. Because there's two concepts here. There's menu links that are defined in code, and that includes the ones that are defined by views, because what you have is like some code that adds in these menu links. And then the other way is custom menu links, which you get when you click the add link, or when you I think when you add a piece of content, anything that you add to the menu yourself through the interface is actually a content entity. So there's probably a number of routes that you can use that would result in this situation. And I think it's worth keeping in mind, because it's, when we talk about it, the solution isn't just in views. There's a broader, thing going on here than just views.
Yeah, menu links are the worst. I consider a view is configuration, so you can define a menu link through configuration. Although you're perfectly correct that there is some code that's taking that configuration and creating a menu link. You can define them in YAML files, and you can define them as content entities. So they are the most confusing thing. We talk about the distinction between content and configuration, and that's still complicated, and menu links are the worst. So Thomas, did you want to have a follow-up?
Sort of. Like my concern that I was struggling to express is that I worry that we would either be generating unnecessary code if the core source of the problem isn't addressed. So basically, we're putting in a patch that might not then later on get removed if the fundamental issue is resolved. And related to what Aaron said, taxonomy. I can't recall if taxonomy does the same thing when you get rid of a parent or grandparent. And to me, I wouldn't want to introduce a different behavior here and not also introduce the same behavior, right? I wouldn't want a different one. If we're doing it here and we're solving it in this way, I'd want to make certain that it behaved the same way pattern-wise elsewhere, which would include potentially taxonomy or anything else similar.
Good point. Let's take a look at taxonomy in a minute. And there's a little discussion in the chat. Ralph asks whether there are any other ways of creating menu links other than code, a viewer manual. And Aaron says it's either code or through the UI, even when you define a menu link. With views, it's the code in the views module that creates the link. And I'll just add the code in views based on the configuration that creates the link. Yes.
And there's also contrib modules. Like I back in the day used a taxonomy contrib module where we managed menus with the taxonomy, and I would not do it today, but I recall back in the day going through a lot of contrib modules that used other sources of information to generate menus, and I have no idea like if that was done through some part of the API. So ignore the fact that it's a contrib module. My curiosity is, are there API driven things that don't have to necessarily be code, but that something else could be interacting with to generate menu items? That to me is more significant.
So on a high level, it's similar to views. There's code that is creating the menu links, and the code can use anything it wants as the basis to create those menu links. The views code relies on configuration. You could rely on an external feed. You could rely on the time of day. But there is either code creating the menu link or there's a content item. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, sorry, I should also clarify, when I'm talking about code, I'm also thinking about those YAML files that sit at the top level of a module. You have a module name .links.yaml, and in there the module can define menu links. So I should just clarify that, because effectively there's two routes. Like there's the content route to getting a menu link in, which you as a user create, either by clicking the add menu link button that we can see on the screen, or by through a node you have that nice little form on the sidebar. Or there's the way where as you said, Benji, any number of ways another menu link could be defined, but those come through code or through a YAML file, and in those approaches, you as the user don't have as much control. Like you can move it around, but you can't delete it. So there's you can reset it to its original place. So there's a lot of variables at play here in terms of how menu links can appear and how they can just disappear. Because as I said, like if a module decides I'm going to remove that menu link, they can remove it from the YAML file and suddenly it's just gone from the UI, basically. So, which is a simpler way of what we did with views when you remove the link through views. So there's a lot of things going on here. Menu links are the worst, as you said.
Thank you. And Ralph asks in the chat, in the context of the suggested follow-up issue, it would make sense to label menu items that are code-based, or even make distinction between code and view, even though both is in code. But if you have the view label, the user know to go into views for that menu item. Yeah, if it comes from code, there's no uniform way for the menu system to say what you have to do. And until we added the add child link, there were some items like like the delete wouldn't appear, and you would just have a link rather than a drop button. And yeah, I think it's a bug that delete is even showing up, since I think it should simply not be there. But anyway, let's look at the proposed resolution before we say whether it's a good idea or not.
Maybe I could add here, I just checked how it works in the database. So it actually updates the parents and deletes the items from menu tree when you delete those, when you remove those views menu items, but it's very hard for me to understand where it gets how it manages to restore the parents. So that's something technical, and that's kind of surprising. But it does delete the items from the menu tree table. It has nine levels of parents. They're stored, and it deletes, it updates that menu tree table.
Right.
So yeah, that's something pretty technical stuff there to figure out how it restores that parent.
So Aaron, hold on just a minute. I do want to get to the proposed resolution on the issue. Warn before the delete, but we can't do that everywhere, and notify after the delete. So before deleting, it currently, we saw this, just has the message, are you sure you want to delete the content item? This action cannot be undone. And the proposal is to add to that message, this content has 3 menu children. Proceeding will move these one higher in the menu hierarchy, and then list them. And then after the deletion, in a confirmation message, show a warning message. Well, we could debate that. Same as above, just changing the verb tense. Content was deleted that had menu children. These have been moved one level higher in the menu hierarchy. And all entity types, we should generalize to all entity types. E.g. was deleted that had menu children. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it seems to me that even if you do think there's a deeper underlying problem that should be fixed, that the step of notifying people what the current state is, how it currently works, is not a bad idea on the face of it. Thanks for waiting, Aaron. Oh, I got a thumbs up from Ralph, but go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, a couple of things. I was going to say that on Ralph's point about could we show where the link comes from, it reminded me that we do a similar thing on the blocks side, where we tell you this is a system block, this is a block from views. So there is precedent for something like that. The other thing I was going to suggest, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not because it's just off the top of my head. When you delete, when a menu link is deleted, regardless of where it comes from, like that just, it changes the menu tree, and maybe that happens in an unintended way. But we do have the ability to create menu links with no URL. And I'm wondering if one option to solve the sort of underlying problem with menu links just moving around could be that when a link gets deleted that has children, regardless of where it comes from, if it's not done by the user, then Drupal just adds effectively like a placeholder that doesn't have a URL but has the same title, just to preserve the menu tree. And I don't know if that's a good idea, but it's an idea.
So that would certainly be more disruptive than the current proposed resolution, which is just to provide more information.
I think like it could be. I mean, I guess I'm not against providing more information. I think that's a good idea. I'm just also thinking of like what else could be done to like avoid the unintended consequence of, or if you just like say again in an example of like a module updates and it removes a link that you were relying on to build your menu tree, or some unintended effect, like something where the user maybe is kind of unaware of the consequences, then maybe putting these like replacing links with these placeholders might be a good idea.
So for example, if I had accidentally built a menu tree where there was one parent item and then a whole bunch, maybe 10 or 20 child items, and I wanted to undo that, and I said, let's just get rid of the parent item and have the 10 child items all be top level. So at the moment, I can just remove that parent item and poof, I have what I want. So your suggestion, Aaron, if we sort of automatically created this placeholder, I would have to go in here and move all of these to top level, which I don't seem to be able to do. There we
Right.
go. I would have to do a whole bunch of this stuff and then delete what was the parent item. So it certainly
yeah, I mean,
creates some problems, although it would solve others.
I wasn't sorry, I wasn't necessarily thinking about in that case. I was thinking more about that case for like where you're not directly the one directly making the change. So like if it's done, like I said, by say a module update for some reason removes a link that you were relying on.
I see.
In that case, you know, the system automatically maybe creates like, and this is more at the API level to be totally honest, but like it would like automatically then create that link as like a stub so that because when the thing you did there, Benji, like as the site administrator, then you have a clear intention there, but for situations where maybe like even as you as the site administrator, you go in and you like remove using, you know, say you have children that sit under a view, maybe you remove that link for that view. Maybe that's a situation where you might not realize, you know, all of your child items are being reordered or whatever. So yeah, but I think the case where it's like inadvertently done is either through code or views or whatever might be a case to say having this like stub link added is maybe a good idea.
Yeah, I think adding a placeholder would affect breadcrumbs as well. So that's something that's probably would be something that's usually not wanted to happen.
Okay, breadcrumbs by default are based on paths, not menus, but there are contributed modules that make breadcrumbs depend on menus. Go ahead, Thomas.
So I think I would do a follow-up issue. I like the idea that Aaron's attempting to tackle, because I've had the opposite issue from what you were describing, where the intent was to move 10 articles up a level. The issue I had was in more complex situations, like I worked in a library and they had like 1,000 links and they went 5 or 6 levels deep. And sometimes you thought you might be deleting one thing and you're deleting something else, and there was no way to get it back. And the worst part was trying to find where those links went. Because there wasn't an effective way of making a choice, saying, okay, I deliberately, you can't save people from themselves, and we shouldn't, that's not our business. But I think that a more robust way of handling this situation would be better, where it would say, do you, like, you're deleting a parent or grandparent or whatever, do you A, want to drop everything down a level, B, like, that's why it needs to be a follow-up issue, like it's unrelated to this. But and so informationally this is helpful, and if it becomes irrelevant because something else avoids this scenario, then this code would get removed. So I think my earlier concern is meaningless, or at least trivial enough that it could be removed. So moving forward on this, sure, thumbs up. Let's get to word crafting or thumbs upping. But I do think that the behavior in practice in complex sites is really, really difficult in the least. And just telling someone they're getting rid of things, unless you're going to save it to the log or save the information someplace where after the message is gone, you still have a record of it, it's trivial to list. Like, why list 10 links? Like, to me, that doesn't belong in the message. You can just say you've deleted something that has 10 children, and that type of message would be as effective for me.
Yeah, so the more complicated and the more items you have in your menu tree, the more you have to be careful. You can't save people from themselves. ultimately, I hope you've got database backups because yeah, the message currently says this can't be undone, and that should carry some weight.
We could
So-
add to, oops, sorry.
So the tag for usability review was added just recently, yesterday, in fact, asking for a review of the wording. And I think one of the things you just mentioned, Thomas, is a good point. When you do have very large menu item and there are children and grandchildren, it will become unwieldy to list them all. And perhaps we should just be giving some sort of a summary that has 10 child items rather than listing them all. But go ahead, Thomas. You wanted to say something else?
I was just going to suggest that this issue itself is talking about messaging before, messaging after, and whether it's like a warning, etc. For clarification's sake, our warnings go to Drupal logs, right?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
They typically do, but they're separate calls, one of which adds an alert to the page and one of which creates a log message. And typically the log message will have more information.
So to me, then, is that in scope of this issue to suggest that the URLs be saved to the log for recovery if you need that information, but wordsmith wise, we recommend just summary for the messages themselves.
Yeah, I think that would be in line with standard practices to have a short message display on the page. 10 items have been removed. See the logs for details, and then the logs would list the 10 items. And that would be in the post delete action with the post delete message. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I think another situation that we might want to consider is if you delete like a node or something, and I think that was maybe one of the examples in the issue. Well, if you delete like a node and there's child items that sit under that node in the menu, do we warn people on the like entity delete form? Like, I assume that would be a good idea, but then should we also like link, like maybe we should also link to the menu so that you can, quickly jump over there to see the menu tree. So like in a message, we could provide a link to this screen that you're on right now.
Right, so let me just quickly add another. That will do. If I then go to test 2, which is some sort of node, and page not found there. Oh well. We are getting close to the end of the hour, so I guess I can't quite do the experiment to answer that question. But Ralph, you wanted to say something?
More of a question. Could you go back to the to the menu list, please? And what you just created, my question would be, if you have a grandchild, like in that case you've created, and if you now disable or delete the article, become all menu items flat afterwards? Or if is the hierarchy between test 2 and test 3 kept?
I'm pretty sure that the test 3 will still be a child of test 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
it will shift the parents one step down in the menu tree table.
Okay.
Mhm.
One thing, if there is a node that gets deleted from the node form. The node can actually exist in several different menus. So maybe a footer menu, maybe top left menu, some other menu.
Good
So
point.
it can also have effect on several menus with hierarchies. So it can yeah. So there can be several menus with change hierarchies after that.
So proposed resolution sort of has a text description of what the two messages should say. There are some screenshots. Let's have a quick look at the most recent screenshots. And again, they're not creative. They only have one or two things in the list. And I don't see in the issue description, and there might be some discussion in the comments of what to do when there are too many to list. But just based on the description, I think we should recommend not listing them all. You could do something complicated where if there are up to 3, then list them all, and if there are more than 3, then only list the summary. I like the suggestion of all being simpler and just always giving the summary plus a log message. I don't see any mention in the issue summary of creating a log message to go along with the post delete notification. And as for the actual wordsmithing, I don't think we have time to make any progress on that.
One question about the words. It's mentioning one level higher in the menu hierarchy. Is it kind of is it higher and deeper, the words that are used? So it's kind of
Higher makes sense to me.
the opposite direction would be deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could also say up and down.
Because in Finnish, it would translate into lower, one level lower in the menu hierarchy, and the opposite would be deeper. So it would be lower and deeper, I think.
Really?
Yeah. So we would call it low water and deep water. So the same word. But that's language specific.
Yes. And Ralph says in the chat, up might be shorter. But certainly one level up. One level up sounds just a little bit informal to me, but equally understandable.
And generally, we try to avoid directional terms, although this is a bit of a not the same as not in the same context as what we usually say. But I don't want to start inadvertently introducing bad patterns. So let's try to avoid up, down, left, right.
So we have just 2 minutes left in the meeting. So shall we say at this point that we recommend not listing the items, but giving a summary? Should we and giving a log message in addition to the summary? I get a thumbs up from Ralph. Ralph comments that strictly speaking, higher is also directional. I think that's true. I'm getting a thumbs up from Thomas and Aaron. So any volunteers to write that comment? And the comment should also say, we did not have time to consider the exact wording. Okay, I think I can write the comment. I'll do it at the end of my workday. So several hours from now. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. And please, if you have time over the course of the week to review an issue and be prepared to present it to the group, that'll be a more effective use of our time. Go ahead, Thomas.
Just very briefly, I wanted to mention that I believe next Monday there will be another meeting of the Drupalisms, like kind of UX sub-team. And also Christina was looking for potential volunteers in the UX Slack channel for Drupal to perform or to assist with some usability testing. I unfortunately am swamped with classes, but I just wanted to bring that up for people to consider. Thank you.
Okay, and Christina put this link in the UX channel for the sake of the recording. It's issue 340-2924, toolbar prototype usability testing phase 5. Okay. Thank you all. I'll be back next week. Hope you
Thanks,
can make it.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks, everyone.